Hey, what's going on, guys? Max here with Because Bitcoin, and today I'm going to be painting a low time frame, mid time frame, and higher time frame outlook on what I could see in the future for Bitcoin price action. Let's dive into the charts. So, right now we're at a bit of a fork in the road. Now, my last video, basically, I painted that Bitcoin more or less broke its previous value area low and was just kind of hanging out right underneath. I was seeing some signs at the time. It was slightly concerning for Bitcoin, but really we haven't done much since then. Price basically just lost this previous level, has dropped, and there's been a lot of indecision. So let me pull up those previous drawings, and we will see how things are looking. So I had mentioned, and let's go down to the lower time frame here. Let's take a look at the 6 hour. You can see we had a pretty clearly defined range right up here. And there's been a lot of people speculating that this move will result in a reclaim of the range low and subsequently higher prices from here. I'm not I'm not convinced of that quite yet. I think that context is key, and I'm definitely seeing a lot of supply overhead still, which is a little bit concerning. And every time we've attempted to press back up against this range low, we have been met with a relatively swift rejection thus far. So, just keeping an eye on things for right now. I'd say that it's probably best to stay out of it because truthfully right now you might as well just flip a coin. Heads or tails, I think it's about 50-50 what happens from here. But either way, I think even if we do get a move back up and you get a clean reclaim of this range low, 29.5, give or take, 29.6, if we do get an expansion out of this area and we do something like this, there's still plenty of meat on that bone to not have to like bottom tick or accumulate within this breakdown here. There's still plenty of meat left on that bone where I think you're probably better served being a little bit late to the move rather than being early and potentially wrong. So if we do end up breaking down from here, this is a pretty obvious level. It's a daily time frame SR level that I think could probably use a little bit of a retest at some point. And again, even if you're bullish here, I think it probably makes sense. This move here was relatively quick. We didn't really build much support on the way up. So if we came down, maybe a little deviation below, I think this is probably where you look for longs. And I'm about to pull up some higher time frame charts that show a little bit of additional confluence there. So let's remove this now. Now, I named this one Mega Wedge. Let's remove this for now. And let's take a look at this on the higher time frame. So this is a bit of a normie pattern here, but they do tend to play out more times than not in Bitcoin, given that it's mostly a TA-driven asset. So we've really just sort of been consolidating, and it's pertinent to disclose that this, again, statistically speaking, is a bit of a bearish pattern right here. It's this chop, grind, consolidation with explosive moves, more or less buoying off of this upper trend line and also holding this bottom trend line here. Now, the big question remains, are we going to get another test of this upper trend line right up here? Time will tell, right? I did have a fractal up there, which could potentially show what course that this would take. I basically, I mean, look, you can find these all over, but I took it from more or less this distribution up here. All right. So as we begin to, and this was kind of a wedge as well. It's a little bit compressed, but we'll just zoom in and see what this would potentially look like. And again, fractals, take them with a grain of salt. I think that they can be helpful. It will not look like this. I mean, I guess it could, right? But typically they don't follow perfectly, but they're more just kind of there as a visual representation of a possible scenario, something that has historically happened in any ticker's history. So maybe we could come down, retest this bottom trend line again. And again, there would be confluence there with the first scenario that I gave of this grouping right here. So we come down, we retest this daily SR level right here below our previous range. And then from there, we get another explosive move up to the mid 30s, which I know has been a very highly anticipated level. A little bit more confluence towards the upper area of this wedge. We do have the last remaining CME futures gap that's completely unmitigated, basically sitting right at the top of this bearish wedge that we're forming right here. So perhaps this is a scenario that we look at. Maybe it goes down here, maybe it doesn't. Ignore like the tail end of it because this move could take months. But it's just one of many scenarios that I'm entertaining. So again, more confluence for potentially looking for longs down here at 28K, give or take. And then again, if we maybe visit this upper trend line right here, you could finally see that long-awaited mid-30s level. So let's take some of these off as well. I'm going to show one more. Now, this is pretty similar to what we just saw here, but for all of those saying like we're going to get a PO3, a PO3 stands for power of three. It's a pretty common pattern where you get an accumulation period, you get a bear trap, and I guess you could also have one to the upside, a bull trap, and then it's followed typically by an expansion period. So again, bear trap set, a lot of people short there, and then you get an expansion. And something similar happened here. This one wasn't like quite as clean, right? But we did have a nice bear trap, and you could maybe argue it started like right here. And then, we did have the most recent expansion upwards. So that's the argument that I'm seeing right now for an immediate turnaround in price, which is why I have these little horizontal lines drawn. But something to acknowledge as well is that we did have a break of value, again, right here from 29.5, 29.6, and we did form this daily FVG right here. And since then, we've had multiple 3, to count them on the daily time frame, stabs into that level, also retesting the previous range low. So again, more confluence of a bearish retest right here at 29.5, 29.6. And price has just kind of been buoying, unable to reclaim. So again, I think that context is key with this one, where I wouldn't be leaning towards a bullish reclaim and PO3 like we saw over here or maybe right here. But again, I could see, I could see something like this, and then that would bring us to the bottom of the wedge that I just showed, and then, maybe we venture back up, something like that. I think we just need a little bit more bear fuel. Like if we are going to remain bullish here, I want a little bit more of an aggressive bear trap set. I don't think there's that much short interest built up down here. I think there's definitely people shorting here, but the bulls look relatively weak on their attempts at reclaims thus far, so things are looking relatively bearish in my opinion, at least in the short term. Anything can happen, of course, but I did just provide an outlook on a higher time frame bullish setup as well as a bearish setup there. Now, one more chart I wanted to show. Now, it's July 28th. We're getting into the very tail end of July. Now, I want to pull up this chart here. This is the Bitcoin monthly returns table. This goes all the way back through the entire history of Bitcoin, all the way to 2010. And you can see at the very bottom, the very, very bottom underneath the chart, says average of all of the months, January through December, going back to 2010. August and September, as you can see, the only 2 red ones, basically ever, the only 2 red months historically for the average of Bitcoin's tenure being 13 years old, since this data has been collected here, for 2010 to 2013. The average monthly return in August is minus 24.7%, and in September minus 12.8%. Now, seasonality definitely matters, and I definitely don't think it should be ignored. It will most likely be acting as a headwind for Bitcoin's price as well as equities. But with that said, this is based on open to close, right? So we could open August 1st, spike 15, 20%, and then close the month minus 20%, right? So within that potential red month, August and September, just giving a hypothetical, we could still move up substantially and close the month red. So something to take note of. Again, nothing is concrete. There's infinite scenarios that could happen, but again, I do not think that the seasonality should be ignored, as we are basically heading into the 2 worst months historically speaking for Bitcoin since 2010, being August and September, and we are kind of breaking down right now. So maybe this time is different. There definitely have been green August and September. 2013. Bitcoin went up 15% and then 24% in July and August. Or I'm sorry, actually, yeah, that was July and August. I just mean in August it went up 24%. 2012 we had July, August, September green, and then 2021, we had a 13.37% green August. So again, anything can happen. You got to stay flexible, but things are looking a little bit heavy right now. Truthfully, I'd love to see. This is my ideal scenario. I already showed it, but I'll just put it back on. This would be ideal, and I think it would award those that are patient the most amount of opportunity as we head into the latter half or the second half of 2023. Would be we come back to retest this trend line. test this daily SR at basically 28. We would basically set a monster bear trap down here and then send it back up to mid 30s with haste. But we'll see. It's really all about the reaction right here at 28, and I think it's a really important level for us to test. So anyways, just a quick little breakdown for you guys. I hope you found it useful. And again, my name is Max. I'm here with Because Bitcoin. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.